Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has been questioned by members of SCOPA about corruption, maladministration and mismanagement allegations at Eskom. We have heard from the former CEO, the board, SAPS and even the Hawks. Heidi Jokers has been following these proceedings closely and joins me now in studio to unpack this. Heidi, has the minister revealed anything new today?
Not entirely, William. There was much anticipation regarding the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan's appearance. We do know that previously he was unable to appear because he was in China dealing with matters related to Transnet and those locomotives. But he basically just sat today before SCOPA speaking about his unhappiness regarding Andre de Ruyter's interview with ENCA, our colleague Annika Larsen, and how Andre de Ruyter basically focused on writing a new book instead of dealing with these allegations of corruption at Eskom. While all of this is unfolding, William, the country still sits with rolling blackouts for the past 15 years.
Sure.
A lot of it is blame game, he said, she said, but this is what actually happened. Corruption has been at Eskom for some time, even way before Andre de Ruyter took over the CEO position back in 2019. But what's interesting here is the fact that the minister speaks about the allegations around the ruling party, the ANC, possibly being involved in some of those corrupt allegations that are at play when it comes to Eskom. The minister highlighting the fact, not anything new, we've heard this before, about the fact that Mpumalanga is a crime scene. We've heard about these mine cartels and mine mafias that are taking place in Mpumalanga. The minister reiterating this, really giving no new information or insight into what is going to be done about whether or not those allegations are true and whether or not he was pre-informed before Andre de Ruyter conducted that interview, which I think really leaves the public none the wiser and SCOPA itself. But let's listen to what the minister had to say with regards to the ruling party's involvement or possible involvement in all of this.
Eskom is not just a feeding trough for the ANC, as the former CEO alleges. There have been instances where there's been a link, and one can't deny that, between institutions like Chancellor House and some of the projects that have been undertaken. But at the same time, it's important to recognize that multinational institutions like ABB, SAP, local companies like Trillion and the construction companies with whom some litigation and some negotiations are still continuing between Eskom and themselves and a plethora of others and have been feeding off the Eskom situation itself. There certainly needs to be a separation, in my view, between the state and the party. And hopefully we will move more in that direction in the coming years.
And Heidi, we understand that the minister took a swipe at former CEO Andre de Ruyter. What exactly did he have to say?
Yes, I think most of his appearance before SCOPA today really was taking jabs left, right and centre at the former CEO, speaking about the allegations he made, speaking about the fact that he, as I mentioned before, took time to write a book instead of actually dealing with the serious allegations that Andre de Ruyter brought to the fore in that exclusive interview that he did with Annika Larsen. The minister going as far as saying that he didn't believe that Andre de Ruyter failed at his job as the CEO, but he says there were a lot of shortcomings and the CEO could have possibly taken more responsibility. He even went as far as saying that Andre de Ruyter presented himself as the best CEO and everybody else around him were, as, and I quote, fools. So the minister really seeing rather irritated about the fact that all of this was brought to the public, yet the minister really saying, why didn't you sort out what you saw problems at Eskom? There were issues of corruption. You had to deal with load shedding. There were also allegations of the fact that the minister was micromanaging engineers and officials at various power stations. The minister taking great exception to that and saying, I don't micromanage anybody. He even went as far as saying he's a pharmacist. He's he's not an engineer, so he can't tell people which tools or which spanners to use to sort out the load shedding. So it was a rather interesting morning and afternoon, but I want us to listen to some of what the minister had to say with regards to Andre de Ruyter as being a CEO.
Sure.
The few people who've gone through the book or his various articles, which I haven't, indicate this in very simple terms. The only hero in South Africa is de Ruyter. The rest of us are all fools. And only he knows what's best. Only he knows, like I said earlier on, what corporate governance means and doesn't mean. And the rest of us are still in our nappies, apparently, and need to just stand at his feet and learn from him. So there's certainly a case to be made to suggest that. Did I engage with him after the interview? I was shocked at the interview and its content. Somebody sent me a clip. I forwarded the clip to him, expecting a response. No response came.
Do you know, very bizarrely, I've started reading Truth to Power, the new book that came out on Sunday by Andre de Ruyter. And in there, for me, the impression I'm getting from Andre de Ruyter is like he's belittling the minister and his role in all of this. I mean, what impression are you making from what the ministers had to say in SCOPA today?
Yes, I haven't started reading the book. I'll definitely get a copy and try and understand Andre de Ruyter's side, because he obviously has a version, but the minister's version is very much, you know, stop writing books and we should have been dealing with the issues here. I think what's also interesting, William, is the fact that there seems to be an issue around whether or not Andre de Ruyter was properly vetted to become the CEO of Eskom. And we mustn't also forget that as the shareholder, the minister is the shareholder of Eskom.
Sure.
They are the Department of Public Enterprises. Eskom is a public entity. It's a state-owned entity. Therefore, the minister has a significant role in having a final say in these decisions, who's appointed as the Eskom CEO. Currently, there is a process underway to appoint a new CEO. The minister has to be involved in that process. So a lot of what is being said in the public is, how are we wise and how are we moving forward as a nation in terms of dealing with this power crisis that we have, when the minister sits in SCOPA and says, no, but Andre de Ruyter should have done A, B and C, and then de Ruyter sits in front of SCOPA and says, but the minister knew about A, B and C and nothing was done, and here I am writing a book. So at the end of the day, it's about really trying to find ways to deal with this energy crisis, and right now it's a lot about a blame game. And just lastly, William, we do know that the SIU was also present in that SCOPA meeting today with the minister.
Yes.
And the SIU is also making it very clear that it will be investigating the way in which Andre de Ruyter handled this internal intelligence report that was conducted about the maladministration and corruption at Eskom. Because it's one thing to say, well, this is what's happening. It's another to do something as a CEO. And he's no longer the CEO, but what did he do when he was the CEO? They will be appearing again next week, Friday, which I think is going to be important in terms of really getting to the bottom of what happened. And it's going to be the President's security advisor around what happened at Eskom. So that's going to be an interesting one.